Right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on our monthly webinar series. My name is Enoch Mufikwe, and I am the training and development practitioner for Geotab Africa. In this webinar series, I will be talking about total cost of ownership. Now, Geotab is an expert in fleet industry with 25 years experience and going stronger. And looking at the timeline in front of you, one can easily see how Geotab has managed to grow and become the strongest telematics provider globally. While Geotab is making such a huge impact in the fleet industry worldwide, it offers a flexible platform for partners through Geotab's marketplace, allowing you as a fleet-based organization to tailor the solution to your organizational needs. And Geotab is a worldwide leading telematics provider with over 2 million devices in operation as we speak, and more than 170 kilometers driven daily that has seen Geotab gaining international awards and recognition. Geotab is all about reliability, security, and big data with over 40 billion data points collected daily. Our footprints spans the majority of Africa, and Geotab operates in all 7 continents. So Geotab focuses on 6 pillars of innovation. Firstly, we have productivity. As a fleet-based organization, you want to make sure that all your assets are working properly and being productive. Under the safety pillar, you want to make sure that your drivers are actually driving safely and in the process reducing unnecessary costs. Fleet optimization assists with vehicle maintenance and ensuring that company vehicles are taken care of. And expandability, it assists you to expand your fleet management solution with complementary add-ons. And then we also see that under the compliance pillar, this is where it ensures that other drivers complying with industry and business rules and regulations. And lastly, the sustainability pillar assists in monitoring and making sure that fleet-based organizations help drivers reduce total CO2 emissions from things like idling time and saving money for the business in the long run. So, as mentioned, today's session, ladies and gentlemen, is about total cost of ownership. All right, let's have a look at the agenda for the session. Firstly, total cost of ownership will be defined and unpacked for better understanding. And then we will touch on how to actually calculate total cost of ownership. And lastly, we will discuss the importance of calculating total cost of ownership as a fleet-based organization. So, what is total cost of ownership? Total cost of ownership, or TCO in short, is a term generally used when breaking down the cost of your organization's fleet. One can simply say TCO is a financial estimate that helps both purchasers and owners determine the direct and indirect cost of fleet vehicles on a short-term and a long-term basis. TCO expenses are one of the highest costs involved in management of a fleet, and the TCO of a vehicle includes several factors that many may not think to consider in their vehicle purchasing decisions. And the factors to consider when purchasing a vehicle include the initial cost of the vehicle, right? And the return value when the vehicle is being sold at a later stage. And lastly, all the costs in between the buying and the selling of a vehicle. So from that definition, ladies and gentlemen, we now see and understand that when purchasing vehicles for a fleet-based organization, there is more to it than just the cost of purchasing the vehicles. Geotab provides a versatile fleet management solution that helps with keeping track of all the costs of running your vehicles once the purchase is done and to monitor the use of your assets. Now that TCO is explained and we now have a better understanding of what it is, let us now discuss how it is calculated. Total cost of ownership is calculated using the following formula in front of you. And to better understand the equation, let's quickly look at a breakdown of each category in this formula. The first category is vehicle acquisition costs. Acquisition costs include the time spent on the research conducted before the actual purchase and any modifications needed to be done on vehicles or trucks to suit the organizational needs. Now, the more options added to the vehicle, the higher the costs. Therefore, it is important as fleet managers to consider the value of these added options to the business and the resale value of the vehicles. Secondly, we have fleet financing costs. Whether the vehicle is leased or owned, there is a financial burden attached to the asset. This is an important cost to consider. Now, some companies have very low cost of capital and may decide to buy their own vehicles, while others like the advantages of leasing or borrowing. Either way, interest costs and lease administration fees are important costs to consider. Now, we also see that we have running costs. The cost of running a vehicle are not to be overlooked, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, vehicle upkeep and maintenance, as well as general day-to-day expenses, greatly contribute to your total cost of ownership. My Geotab offers fleet managers with vast data to monitor running costs of the vehicle, such as real-time mileage, engine hours, and vehicle diagnostics. The driving behavior of the drivers also has a huge impact on the running costs of vehicles, and Geotab's driver safety scorecard is a useful tool not only for the managers to monitor the driving behavior, but to also provide driver coaching to all the drivers by identifying areas of improvement. And what is the importance of TCO? Total cost of ownership is a vital part of fleet management and is not something to be ignored. Calculating it correctly means more accuracy in your financial reporting and better understanding of each vehicle's performance in comparison to others in your fleet. And calculating TCO benefits are accurate financial reporting for the organization, profitability, equipping your fleet with efficient vehicles, and lastly, avoiding unforeseen costs and ultimately making sure that company assets are taken care of. A company's profitability can be greatly affected by your total cost of ownership, and TCO does not only account for a large portion of your company's budget, but it also has the potential to make you money if you take advantage of it. So choosing a reliable vehicle that meets the needs of the job at the lowest possible cost is essential to fleet success. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, using the right tools to monitor vehicles or your drivers allows for fleet managers to proactively get ahead of unnecessary expenses. And speaking of using the right tools, let's have a look at some of Geotab's useful tools with this regard. My Geotab gives users access to great reports. The first one is the asset utilization report. And here we have the least utilized vehicles report. So this report helps fleet managers to identify which vehicles are used less compared to the rest of the fleet's vehicles. And it also indicates useful information like how many days in total each vehicle has been driven, the total drive time per vehicle, as well as the distance covered by your individual vehicles in your fleet. Now, it is very important to ensure that the utilization of the vehicles is as balanced as much as possible. And this report, ladies and gentlemen, assists in monitoring and increasing productivity of your vehicles. Here we have the engine fault report and the driver safety scorecard. The engine faults report assists with regards to notifications that will help quickly identify vehicles that needs quick repairs or servicing. At the end of the day, fleet managers can not afford to avoid engine faults, and this can lead to bigger and costly problems. So as fleet managers, we don't want to ignore any warning signs. This report will assist to avoid downtime of your vehicles, because vehicles that are non-operational are costly to the company. And on the right-hand side, we have the driver safety scorecard. This report primarily focuses on the safety driving behavior of your drivers, giving an indication of the average fleet score and individual vehicle or driver score. A classification range of low, mild, medium, and high risk is used to motivate your drivers to be in the low risk category as much as possible. So the driver safety scorecard, as we can see, is a useful tool not only for the managers to monitor the driving behavior, but also to provide driver coaching to all the drivers, as mentioned, by identifying areas of improvement to all the drivers. Over here, we have the mileage trend report, or the mileage report. And this report is a great measure for fleet managers to demonstrate any change in the total kilometers driven by the fleet's vehicles. It helps to demonstrate whether or not your company is trending in the right direction in regards to kilometers driven, especially if compared to idling and fuel statistics. And the last tool, or the last report that we have, is the idle cost report. In this case, we have the weekly idle cost. Okay, this report shows the entire fleet's idle cost on a weekly basis for each day, which makes it easy for fleet managers to know how much idling is roughly costing their company. And the report includes a graph with a trend of the week's information shown daily. The trend line here indicates whether or not your fleet is actually reducing their daily or weekly idle costs. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion to our discussion of total cost of ownership, we now see how it is important to calculate, or why is it important to calculate rather, total cost of ownership as a fleet-based organization. As managers, we must not ignore or be short-sighted of any underlying costs. The result of ignoring them will not only cost the business a lot of money, but could also bring an end to the business. And the benefits, on the other hand, is that if taken advantage of, total cost of ownership will help an organization achieve accurate financial reporting, efficient vehicles for the fleet and organizational needs, avoiding unforeseen costs, and also to ensure that the company assets are taken care of. And we now see and understand how a company's profitability can be greatly affected by your total cost of ownership. So thank you very much to all the delegates and everyone for attending today's webinar series. Please contact us with any further questions, or if you require any further information. And please familiarize yourself with our communication channels shown below on the slide. And one more time, I would just like to thank each and every one of you for attending, and do keep safe.